Please be seated. This is an important day in the life of our nation as we come into the weekend that we call Memorial Day. Now, I believe almost every nation in the world has its own form of Memorial Day, somewhere or the other. It's a day on which we remember those who gave their lives for their nation, usually in the form of war. World War I was the war to end all wars. It didn't work. World War II came along to, again, end war. It didn't work. What we were looking for was peace. But unfortunately, the peace that is real is not won by weapons. One of the things that we do is we honor those people who were willing to commit themselves so fully to the cause of their nation's freedom, to the freedom of the world, and to our belief in God. Those people fought those wars so that we could be here. My father was a Marine in the Second World War in the Pacific Theater. The only reason he was there was to make it possible for those who live in this country to love one another, to hold the sacred truth that all people are created equal, to hold the sacred truth that all people are loved by God. War is inevitable in our lifetime, so long as we seek through it some kind of peace. But the peace that we seek is not a thing of war. It's a thing of the heart. Now, the heart in ancient times was not the seat of emotion. That was the bowels. You know, if you're angry, if you're upset with somebody, usually this is where you find that. But the heart was the seat of making choices, divining things, understanding things, coming to decisions. Those were things of the heart. The Gospel of John is a marvelous and wonderful gospel. It's the only gospel that is regularly mistranslated, because it doesn't agree with things as we see them. If you are reading the gospel along with me this morning, you noticed a few changes in words. In the Gospel of John, Jesus does not say, "Don't let your hearts be troubled." He says, "Don't let your heart be troubled." This is the second time he said that in the Gospel of John. Don't let your heart be troubled. Now he's talking to a whole large group of people, just as I am talking to you this morning. He's not talking to an individual in that group. He's talking to the whole group. And yet the word heart remains singular. Now, how can that be? since we all have a heart beating in our breasts. The key is, I think, that John is talking about the heart of God, which is in every single breast of every single person in the world. They are born in the image of God, and they have the heart of God beating in them. Now, that's a hard thing to understand, especially on Memorial Day. My father, who fought in the Pacific Theater in World War II, was a Marine. And he was sent on to those islands to clear them of the enemy. And if you lived in Southern California in the late 40s, you know what it was like. My father returned from the Pacific Theater to teach us to love the Japanese people, because they were the children of God just like us. Because in every one of those breasts, the heart of God was beating. That's what he brought home from the war. Not the hatred of a people, for that would have been to conflict evil with evil, but rather the love of all people and the freedom of all people. You see, in some way or another, although it didn't register for him terribly well until he was almost dying, he got it right. The heart of God beat in his breast. That's a heart that accepts all of God's creation as being God-like. There is some bit of God in each and every person in the world. Even though they are not like us, even though we count them the enemy, nonetheless, the heart of God beats there. And it beats in us. And it's not until we can realize that reality in our lives that the heart we share is the heart of all of us. It's not until we can accept that we can have the true peace which passes all understanding. The peace which Christ gives, because he gives us the heart of God. That heart is a marvelous and wonderful thing, for it does not seek itself. It only seeks others. It seeks only to serve, not to honor the self. But when that heart beats in your breast, and you recognize it in others, then your life is filled with peace. For you have no need to find that peace out there. It resides where Christ put it, in each of us. Jesus said, "Don't let your heart be troubled." Don't fuss about things. Don't fuss about people. Let your heart, the one you share in common, beat in peace. And then you will have that peace of God which passes all understanding. And it can never be taken away. Amen.